Good morning, Warzone kids. I did a piece a couple days ago called The Map and the Terrain, about kind of the plan for the map to the trail to the Western Lands. I just imagine this as an actual pilgrimage, and with letters written back and forth on the trail between a couple of pilgrims. Both of them are me. This idea that the inward journey kind of becomes an external pilgrimage, that's the core idea of a book I'm attempting to sell. I've written the first draft, and I'm scouting around for an actual publisher. A Pilgrim's Progress, Letters from the Trail to the Western Lands. And so I'm just going to start taking us through that map. We had the trailhead where we talked about the concept of healing and the idea of the moment in one's life when, whether you use the word healing or not, whatever word you use, if you're a Warzone kid, the task is living your life. So whatever kind of words you use inside your own mind, the trailhead is the moment in your life when you kind of have a little bit of clarity and you say to yourself, okay, I want something better for my life. Whether you call that healing or whatever you call it, however you think about it, a moment of clarity. When you kind of know that your life is taking a different turn and you know that you're ready for change. That's the trailhead. And then the first patch after the trailhead, first stretch of road, I call it the Moonlight Miles. Because for myself and for a lot of Warzone kids, your mileage may vary on all this. This is a map of my experience. There's always a difference between the map that you're looking at and the terrain that's in front of your face. My experience of this first patch of life after you know that you're on the trail to the Western Lands, as I call it, the Moonlight Miles, because a person can have a feeling of clarity. We don't know how long the path is, but we kind of know that we're on it. We're on the right track. We don't know where it goes. We might not even know what the track is, but you can have a moment where you just know that you're on the right track. The moon is full. The ground is level. The walking is easy. I heard a little something the other day, which I don't know if it's true or not, but ancient Romans were very good with the roads. They liked them a paved road. They liked it to be wide and smooth and level, just about like modern roads. And in the ancient world, there's no street lights, but I came across a little factoid that the ancient Romans would put sort of a highly reflective white bricks as part of their road. And those bricks would reflect the moonlight. And if you live in an urban area with a lot of light pollution and whatnot, you might not appreciate this. But if you're outside at nighttime, in the dark, in an area like Vermont where there's very little light pollution, you would be amazed at how well you can see in the dark under the light of a full moon and a clear sky. Or maybe even a little bit of haze reflects the moonlight better. So the Moonlight Miles, that first stretch of trail where you can appreciate that soft silver moonlight and it lights your way and you can see that you're on a road. Whatever way you're going, that's the right way. If I want to really connect with that feeling for myself, I would put myself back in time to 2012, which was the first time that I set foot in a 12-step meeting. The Secret Fellowship. NA. Narcotics Anonymous. That was the one that I did. I'm an addict. And I went to that meeting because there was a Sunday where I left the house in the morning to go try to find the way to Purloin through doctors, through someone. Dope that wasn't for me. And I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I had a period in the past where I was an active addict when I was a kid, my early 20s. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go out and try to find some way to get high. And to protect myself from leaving the house, I went and put my pajamas back on. And then a couple hours later, I found myself slowly getting dressed again. Putting on my britches, putting on my shirt, putting on my shoes. And I just knew that I was headed out to go try to get something to put in my body to make me high. To escape my life. To cover up my bad feelings. But I didn't do that. And I did go to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. And I got a white key tag. That's what they give you in Narcotics Anonymous when you go in there. And you say, yeah, I'm an addict and I want things to be different. And I got a white key tag. And things were very, very different immediately that day. The Moonlight Miles. They said, don't worry about the rest of your life not getting high. Don't worry about any of that. Just go to bed tonight without getting high. That's all you have to do. And if you want to get high, they gave me a bunch of numbers. If you want to get high, call these numbers until you talk to someone. And if no one answers, leave a message. And that message has to say, I'm Ben, I'm an addict, and I want to get high. And my sponsor told me, if you call 3 numbers and leave 3 voicemail messages saying, hi, I'm Ben, I'm an addict, and I want to get high, but I don't want to get high. If you leave those 3 messages like that, then that's enough. If you still want to get high after that, then go get high. No one can stop you anyway. I called those numbers until I left 3 messages, and I left that message 3 times, and I did not want to get high anymore. I knew that if I made it to bed that night, my job was done. Those were my miles on the trail for that day. And I did not know how long the trail might be or what may lay in front of it or how I was going to get through the next day. But my sponsor said, you do not have to worry about the next day. Your job today is to go to bed without getting high. And I went to bed that night without getting high. And I kept on going to bed without getting high. And as you'll hear a lot of addicts say in these meetings, they might be getting their 30-year chip, their 30-year key tag. And they'll say, it's not 30 years, it's a whole bunch of 1 days. That's right. So the Moonlight Miles are those miles that stretch out ahead of you when you have that feeling. You can call it grace. You can call it anything you want, but that feeling is that feeling. And the Moonlight Miles is the first stretch of the trail. All you have to do is put one foot in front of the other under that soft moonlight on that easy road for 1 day. You make it to the end of your miles for that day. All you have to do is make it through your miles for that day. And however many miles you make it that day, those are your miles for that day. Stay on the path and you'll get your miles in for that day. There's no way to fail. You can't fail. Get your miles in for that day, walk your path. And if that day, if things had been different, and if I'd left those messages, and then I'd still wanted to go out and get high, and I'd gone out to get high, those would have been my miles for that day. Because I've relapsed since then. Those were my miles. Every time I decided to put something in my body to change the way I felt, that showed me a little something about how easy that conditioning is to slip right back into. And at every turn, every time I would do something like that, I would know that the way out was to take my steps on the trail for that day. That's what the Moonlight Miles are all about. After a while, you notice that you're carrying a rucksack. You're carrying a rucksack in your mind of all the stuff that you need on the trail. And the next patch of time on the Moonlight Miles is about taking a look at what's in your rucksack. I'll give you an example. First time, still from 12-step, a lot of war zone kids have spent a lot of time in the rooms of recovery, as they call them, in one 12-step program or another. And you know, the first things in my rucksack was that white key tag and some phrases that I heard in that meeting. Let go and let God. The idea that if I didn't do something different, I was going to keep doing the same thing. That's what's behind step number 1, which is something like, we admitted that we were powerless over drugs, or we came to see that we were powerless over drugs, whatever it is. The phrasing, and I apologize, I can't exactly remember it. But the words are important because it's about a realization in your mind. You came to see that you were powerless. Not, here's a metaphysical statement about the universe. You are a powerless worm. That is how step number 1 looks to people who are not in the midst of trying to practice it. When you're trying to practice it for real in your life, it's about coming to admit, coming to see that if you don't do something different, you're going to do the same thing. That is what they call in logic class a tautology. It's the same thing. If you don't do something different, you're going to do the same thing. There is no way around it. Those were some of the things that are in my rucksack right from the beginning. Another thing that's in my rucksack was a phrase from Zen, which has stuck in my mind since the first time I heard it, probably 20 years ago. Keep your cup empty. You can add nothing to a full cup. And the image here is that your mind, your consciousness, is a cup, coffee cup. Your ideas about the world, and your ideas about yourself, and your notions about the world, that's coffee in that coffee cup. And when your cup is full of coffee, you can't add any more to it, it just runs out. And every day, when you encounter the world, all the ideas you have about what you're going to encounter, what things mean, all the ideas about yourself, all your notions of what you are and aren't, and what you can change and can't change, and all your fears about how am I going to live the next 20 years without getting high, I can't imagine it, on and on and on and on and on. All that stuff is cold coffee filling up your cup. And you push the plunger down on your press pot and make that day's coffee. You can't add it to your cup because your cup's already full. It'll just run out. Empty your cup. Keep your cup empty. Take on each day with an empty cup. Put some fresh coffee in it. That coffee is what's in front of your face right there on the trail on that day. That's an idea that was in my rucksack. Easy, not hard. That's another idea. When life feels heavy as a mountain, all you have to do is remember that that mountain is almost always in the past or in the future. In the present moment, life is light as a feather. Easy, not hard. Light, not heavy. Feathers, not mountains. Those are some of the ideas that are in my rucksack that I carried with me, that I kept. They're still in there. There's a lot of other ideas that were floating around in my rucksack that I chucked out. Next time I'll talk about some of those. Like any long through hiker, making it up the long trail, making it up the Appalachian Trail, making it up the Pacific Coast Trail. You start your rucksack with whatever you start your rucksack. You start your trip with whatever's in your rucksack. And you've got that stuff in there based on the fact that you think you might need it later on, and you think it might be helpful. A lot of backpackers, I'm not a backpacker, but a lot of backpackers will tell you that when they started out, their pack was way too heavy with junk they didn't need. And when you start out, you look at each thing in there. I need 2 packages of batteries. I need this whole Coleman stove in there. I need this high-dollar dehydrated food. I need all this stuff. I can't make it without it. Well, a lot of backpackers will tell you that you start to think different a couple hundred miles down the trail when you've been toting all that stuff. And a lot of backpackers would tell you that they found themselves becoming very ruthless. If you don't need it, chuck it out. And you learn what need means, and you learn along the way what's too heavy in your backpack and what ain't, and what's pulling its weight and what's not. You got 3 dozen AA batteries in there. You're still on your first one. You don't need 3 dozen AA batteries. That's about your fear of the future and how you're going to have to walk in the dark. Well, the moon's always full on the Moonlight Miles anyway. You don't even need the headlamp. Chuck that out. See what I mean? You learn as you go. But the first thing you got to know, the first step is just being aware that you have a rucksack and it has stuff in it. And some of that stuff is going to help you down the path and some of it ain't. Often the first time, I don't know how many thousands of miles I walked down the Moonlight Miles trail before I even came to an awareness that I had a rucksack. And that I could take stuff out of that rucksack and I could put other stuff in. That's the Moonlight Miles, Pilgrim. Give a little bit of thought to the idea that you're carrying a rucksack with you right now. That's it. Don't worry too much about what's in it. First, just be aware that you're wearing a rucksack full of ideas about the world. You're going to find over time some of those ideas are your friends and some ain't. Don't worry about that now. Just be aware that you got a rucksack. Your ideas about the world. Reflect on how that rucksack feels. Do your ideas about the world feel like they're a good fit to you, or is it all lumpy? Weights distributed all wrong, too hard to carry, straps don't fit. Maybe you're squashed into a religion or a way of believing things that you're handed that doesn't work for you anymore. Maybe you find that you were brought up with a religion and a way of looking at things that works very well for you and it's a perfect fit. Just be aware. It's a good day to get in a bunch of miles under that soft silver moon on the broad road. This stretch of it anyway is paved with nice white reflecting bricks ever so often so you can see your way. Appreciate that moonlight, Pilgrim. Appreciate this day. Feel the backpack. Feel that rucksack. It's a good day, Pilgrim. It's a good day to be alive. Since we're alive today, let's keep it that way. And let's get in some miles on the trail, Pilgrim. It's a beautiful day. Let's enjoy it.